Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Chris Falier. I'm an independent producer, made a lot of spots over the years, and today I'm going to give you the lowdown on including snow in your filmmaker's toolbox. In a world full of producers creating countless hours of content every single day, what is going to set my work apart? Budget? Sure. Talent? Absolutely. Creativity? Yes. But equally as important to me is having a diverse tool set, along with the knowledge of how to use those tools. The option of bringing snow into my productions has fit into my toolbox nicely. That said, this is a fairly niche tool for film. I am not suggesting that you overuse it, but when used in the right context and in the right situation, with the proper techniques, it can really add to your production. I know it has for me, perhaps it will for you too. Conveying snow on film has always been a challenge, but when it's done right, it's unforgettable. When I think of iconic snow movies, I think of Lord of the Rings, with a big epic journey through the mountains and characters just getting blasted with snow in a blizzard. Or Game of Thrones with that massive ice wall and the snowy battle that ensues. Or even Band of Brothers that uses snow but also uses blood and ash spread out all over the snow. Very iconic. These films use a variety of techniques I'm going to cover. After searching around the internet a fair bit, I could not find any kind of tutorial out there or how-to guide for filming snow. So I thought, well, I'm going to make one, and maybe you guys can learn from it. Throughout the process, I realized, man, maybe I should just make a snow spot, and perhaps you guys can learn from some of my techniques and some of my mistakes. So go check it out. It's called Blown Away. It's in a separate video, video number 2, and I will link to it in the show notes beneath. All right, enough with the chit-chat. Let's dive in. So I just want to throw this disclaimer out there. This is not meant to be a comprehensive video on snow. For years, talented individuals have chased the perfect snow scene with all manners of tools. These approaches include things like snow foam or snow batting and liquid nitrogen system along with snow guns. There are even full-on snowmaking trucks that chop up ice and spray hundreds of pounds of snow per minute. Rather than concentrating on every tool out there, I'm just going to talk about my approach and the tools that have worked for me. So in my journey, I discovered 3 primary ways to get snow effects into film. Each have their pros and cons, and there's no silver bullet, although I will say that some of the products get pretty close. We'll talk about that later. The approaches are filming real snow on location, digital snow, and practical snow. The first approach, real snow on location, has a ton of advantages and a bunch of disadvantages. Let's dive in. Actors can easily interact with real snow compared to, say, digital snow, where it can be a lot more of a challenge. Covering a large area isn't really a problem because Mother Nature takes care of that for you. After a natural snowfall, it can look and film just amazing, pristine. The highlights you get during the golden hour and the roll-off along with bloom is beautiful. Natural snow can make for some wonderful images. Those are a few of the advantages of filming real snow, but there's a fair amount of disadvantages too. In short, get ready to get chilly. You'll have to scout a location, and you'll be at mercy of the weather. I live in Colorado, in a town that's about 7,000 foot in elevation. Between the months of November and April, if I drive 20 minutes, I'm almost guaranteed to find consistent snow. But that's not a luxury that most producers have. If you have a cast and crew and equipment that all need to travel to a snowy location, well, it can get expensive quickly. And it's a bit risky. Just because it snowed a couple of days ago doesn't mean that the snow hasn't deteriorated, and it might look like garbage on film. And lighting real snow with natural light can also be a nightmare. Imagine this Lord of the Rings shot with direct sunlight. It likely wouldn't have made the cut. Sure, you could absolutely use other tricks like diffusing it, but just make sure and plan on additional time to account for temperamental lighting and weather. Shooting real snow in a cold environment can wreak havoc on all facets of a production, whether it be the equipment and fingers not working well together because they're both frozen, or whether it be a lens that is fogging over because it's not properly cared for, batteries that last less time, cast and crew that are freezing. The list goes on, and collectively they just take away from the creative process. Once you scout the perfect location, be prepared to get the shot in a single take if your talent is going to be interacting with natural snow. Once they go tromping through it and mess it up, you can't add it back. Once it's in its pristine state, it'll never look the same. So if you are going to take this approach, I recommend finding a couple of backup locations and be prepared for the unexpected as you are dealing with outdoor elements. The shots made using real snow can be absolutely money. They can look wonderful, but As I've stated, they come with a lot of challenges. Slips, trips, falls from ice, added schedule as we've talked about, an additional expense, and the variables that just make really challenging for a small production. If your production does have adequate budget and time for this approach, shots from this method can be more challenging to replicate with digital or practical approaches. You'll just have to weigh whether the positives outweigh the negatives for your production. The other thing that I don't want to leave out here is the option of bringing in snow machines. They can create snow at temperatures warmer than freezing through something called the cryogenic freezing process. The upside here is that it is real snow and it can look really good. The downside is the same. It is real snow and it can tend to deteriorate, perhaps quickly, if it's warm out. What do the Eskimos say? They have 1,000 different words for snow. Yeah, don't expect that with this approach. Your options for trying to recreate a specific kind of looking snow are going to require a fair amount of skill and likely time and expense. The second approach, digital snow. Digital snow provides a tremendous amount of flexibility. You can control the amount of snow and the quality of snow. You can control the time of day and leave it static. You can change it on demand if you like. So there's a lot to be said for using digital snow. If you're following some of the new filming techniques like virtual production using Unreal Engine, then perhaps you're aware of some of the snow environments that are readily accessible using that platform. Building a snow environment in 3D that uses global illumination, real-time lighting, and has natural fall-off and highlights has been a long time in the making. But finally, it's here, and Unreal provides these tools, in some cases, for absolutely free. The digital approach also has its own set of challenges. 3D packages can be extremely steep when it comes to a learning curve. 3D volumes for Unreal Engine, LED walls, can be very expensive, especially for an independent producer. There are a variety of Unreal virtual production studios that have popped up all around the globe, but you'll still need to go in with your own environment, or contract with an artist that can build out the environment for you. Interaction with digital snow is also a real challenge. Imagine attempting to blast a character with snow, similar to what we did in our blown away spot. Sure, this most certainly could have been completed in post, but it would have taken a lot of effort to try to get this shot right, and it would have needlessly added a lot of man hours with the digital approach. I got my start in the production industry by learning 3D, so I'm fairly comfortable with the technology. From my perspective, knowing where to apply digital snow can provide a great complement, but equally as important is knowing where not to attempt to apply it, thus going down a big rabbit hole and making for just a big time suck. On to our third approach, practical snow. Practical snow has been around for decades now, but traditionally it just doesn't hold up in a lot of circumstances, especially close-up work. Well, finally, there are some new products that solve these old problems when it comes to the practical approach. Practical snow comes in a variety of different forms, and the two major categories I use are non-adhesive and adhesive, and each have their own requirement when it comes to application on your set or location. Let's talk about non-adhesive first. Application is actually really straightforward. You dump it out of a bag, you get the depth you want, where you want, you light it, and voila, you got yourself some snow. Non-adhesive is good for wide to medium shots. But with these new formulations, actually it will hold up in any close-up work. For the adhesive version, application is a little bit different. There are relatively cheap machines available for rent or purchase that make application a snap. And these machines combine water in the form of mist, snow media, and forced air to spray acres if you like. The extra step is well worth it because the adhesive versions make for some awesome snow. They really hold up well under tight shots, and equally so for medium to wide shots. Determining what type of talent interaction your script calls for will help you to choose which version of snow is right for you, adhesive or non-adhesive. Combining adhesive and non-adhesive provides for some really interesting effects and gives you more flexibility for talent interaction. Another positive with these new practical snow products is that they are biodegradable and made from recycled material. So once your production is complete, it's simple. Wash it down the gutter and you're all done. To determine the quantity you're going to need for your production, there are actually some really good online snow calculators out there that I will link to beneath. Some of the best artificial snows are actually made of cellulose, i.e. paper. Well, paper presents a problem in studio because it's a fire hazard. Not anymore. These new versions are actually flame retardant and can be used in studio. And this was essential in our Blown Away commercial. Again, I will link to that video beneath. Another positive attribute for practical snow is it can provide a lot of consistency. So if you need a shot from day to day to day that you're getting over and over again to get correct, adhesive can be a great option. So back to the digital approach, well, practical snow actually has a big role here to play, especially in foreground elements for green screen or Unreal volumes. It allows for actor interaction, as we've talked about, and also a lot of studio lighting setups. It just works wonderfully. Here's a prop that we used in the blown away spot. It's covered with practical adhesive snow. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of give you an idea what it looked like. Yeah, for the most part, I think it's still holding up. I think we covered it maybe about two months ago or so. Here's another prop. This is actually a piece of wood that I cut in my backyard some time ago and covered with an adhesive practical snow. I don't know, it took me probably about 15, 20 seconds to get it to work. Both of these props only needed a light application for our shots. This gave more of a dusting or frosting effect. We could have achieved a much heavier look simply by increasing the amount of material that we applied. You can make a tree, for instance, look like it's got feet of accumulation by this method. Those are just a couple of looks you can achieve with practical snow. Now that I've covered the advantages, let's dive into some of the disadvantages. Cleanup can be a bit of a mess, but the good news is these new products just add water, clean it up. Or if it's the non-adhesive version, no problem, just a shovel and a bag and then recycle if you like. If you're cleaning up a rather large area and it's the adhesive version, it's as simple as using a pressure washer. Another problem with traditional cellulose-based snows is that a lot of it is generated from Europe. So if you want much quantity, you're going to have to pay import tax and you're going to have to wait to get it. Finally, there are US-based options now that eliminate a lot of these challenges. Or something I haven't talked much about here is airborne snow or falling snow. I'll be covering this subject a little bit more in depth in our video number 2, which is the behind the scenes for our commercial spot, Blown Away. You know, I'm not suggesting that one method is better than another here. It's really a question of application and what your production needs. So in summary, you'll need to take a close look at your production and determine which combination of these approaches might be right for you. For our commercial Blown Away, we combine practical snow for the interaction with our talent, along with digital snow for the blizzard elements. This approach may or may not work for your production. You'll want to consider the factors I've talked about to determine what is the right approach or combination of approaches. Okie dokie, that is a wrap. Thank you for watching. I hope it was of some help. Now, go make it snow in your next production. Alrighty? Adios, y'all.